In the quiet hours of the night, when the world retreats into shadow and silence reigns supreme, have you ever felt it? That subtle pull from within, a whisper in the dark, urging you to look closer at what lies beneath your carefully constructed self. It is not evil, it is not chaos. It is something far more intricate, a mirror reflecting parts of you that you may have buried long ago. What if I told you that this hidden aspect of yourself holds the key to unlocking your true potential, yet most people live their entire lives without ever truly understanding it? The shadow self, an enigmatic concept whispered about by mystics, philosophers, and psychologists alike, has been both revered and feared throughout history. It is the unseen force that shapes our desires, fears, and actions, often operating just beyond the reach of conscious awareness. Yet no one speaks openly about it because confronting the shadow requires courage. It demands that we step into the unknown, face what terrifies us, and embrace the paradoxical beauty of our own duality. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the depths of this mysterious realm. Together we will unravel its secrets, tracing its origins through ancient wisdom and forgotten teachings. We'll explore why societies have shrouded this knowledge in metaphor and myth, leaving only breadcrumbs for those brave enough to seek it. And perhaps most importantly, we will uncover how embracing your shadow self can transform not only your inner world, but also the way you navigate life itself. But be warned, this path is not for the faint of heart. The truths we are about to reveal may challenge everything you think you know about yourself. Are you ready to confront the unseen forces that shape your reality? If so, then let us begin. To understand the shadow self, we must first journey back through time to eras when humanity's relationship with the unseen was far more intimate. Long before modern psychology gave us terms like unconscious or repression, ancient civilizations spoke of hidden forces within the human soul using myths, symbols, and rituals. The Egyptians called it Ka, the dual spirit that accompanied every individual, a reflection of both light and darkness. In Hindu philosophy, it was represented by the dance between Shiva, the destroyer, and Vishnu, the preserver, embodying the eternal tension between creation and dissolution. Even in Norse mythology, Odin sacrificed his eye to gain wisdom from Mimir's well, symbolizing the necessity of embracing one's blind spots to achieve deeper insight. These archaic teachings hint at a universal truth. The shadow is not an enemy to be vanquished, but a sacred counterpart to our conscious selves. It is the repository of all that we deny, suppress, or reject: our fears, insecurities, unfulfilled desires, and untapped potential. Yet over centuries, this profound understanding became fragmented. As societies evolved, they began to prioritize order, structure, and conformity. The shadow grew taboo, associated with shame and moral corruption. Religious doctrines often demonized it, painting anything outside societal norms as inherently evil. What once served as a guidepost for self-discovery became a specter lurking in the recesses of human consciousness. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who popularized the term shadow, sought to reclaim its essence in the 20th century. He argued that ignoring the shadow does not make it disappear, it merely festers, manifesting in destructive ways. His work drew heavily from alchemical texts, Gnostic gospels, and Eastern philosophies, bridging ancient wisdom with modern thought. For Jung, integrating the shadow was not just psychological healing, it was spiritual alchemy, the process of turning lead into gold, transforming fragmentation into wholeness. But why has this knowledge remained obscured? Why do so few dare to explore their own depths? Perhaps because confronting the shadow requires humility. It forces us to admit that we are not solely the heroes of our stories, we are also the villains, the tricksters, the wounded healers. This duality is uncomfortable, even terrifying, which is why many choose to ignore it altogether. Societies have long rewarded those who present polished exteriors while shunning those who reveal their cracks. And yet, history shows us that the greatest catalysts for change, artists, revolutionaries, mystics, were individuals who dared to embrace their shadows. Consider the Renaissance, a period marked by unprecedented creativity and innovation. Scholars believe this cultural rebirth was fueled by humanity's willingness to engage with the darker aspects of existence. Paintings depicted both divine grace and human suffering. Literature explored themes of mortality, sin, and redemption. These works were not escapist fantasies. They were mirrors reflecting the complexities of the human condition. By acknowledging the interplay of light and shadow, society flourished. Today, however, we live in an age of distraction. Social media platforms encourage curated personas, perpetuating the illusion of perfection. We scroll past pain, bury discomfort, and chase fleeting validation. But deep down, the shadow persists, waiting patiently for recognition. Its whispers grow louder in moments of crisis, urging us to confront what we've avoided. When ignored, it manifests as anxiety, anger, addiction, or projection onto others. When embraced, it becomes a source of immense power and liberation. As we peel back these layers of history and philosophy, one question emerges. If the shadow holds such transformative potential, why has it been so deliberately concealed? Is it possible that those who guarded this knowledge understood its volatile nature, that only those prepared to face themselves could wield its gifts responsibly? Or perhaps the answer lies closer to home, buried within each of us, waiting to be unearthed. Let us now turn our gaze inward, where the true exploration begins. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast shimmering lake under the light of a full moon. The surface reflects your image clearly, your face, your posture, your essence. But beneath that tranquil veneer lies an unseen world teeming with life. Currents swirling, creatures moving silently, and depths unfathomable to the naked eye. This is the nature of the shadow self. It exists just below the surface of your awareness, influencing every thought, emotion, and action, yet remaining largely invisible unless you choose to dive in. At its core, the shadow is not some malevolent force lurking within us. Rather, it is the sum total of all we have disowned or suppressed. Think of it as a repository for everything society, culture, family, or even ourselves deemed unacceptable. Perhaps it holds memories of childhood fears you were told to grow out of. Maybe it contains talents you dismissed because they didn't align with expectations. Or maybe it shelters desires so raw and unfiltered that acknowledging them feels dangerous. Whatever resides there, the shadow is neither good nor bad, it simply is. And like the hidden ecosystems beneath that moonlit lake, it thrives whether we acknowledge it or not. To better grasp this concept, let's use the analogy of a garden. Imagine your conscious mind as a well-tended plot of land where only certain plants are allowed to grow, the ones you've chosen, carefully, nurtured, and pruned to perfection. These represent the traits, beliefs, and behaviors you proudly display to the world. But beyond the fence lies untamed wilderness, the overgrown thicket of weeds, wildflowers, and perhaps even poisonous vines. This untamed expanse is your shadow. Left unattended, it can choke out the beauty of your cultivated space. Yet if tended with care, it may yield rare herbs, vibrant blooms, and nutrients that enrich the soil of your entire being. The paradox of the shadow lies in its dual nature. On one hand, it harbors our repressed pain, shame, and insecurities. The parts of ourselves we fear will make us unworthy of love or belonging. On the other hand, it also contains our latent gifts, passions, and untapped potential. For example, someone who suppresses their anger might simultaneously stifle their ability to set boundaries or advocate for themselves. A person who hides their vulnerability may unknowingly block their capacity for deep connection and intimacy. In this way, the shadow acts as both prison and treasure chest, a container for what we deny, but also a vault holding keys to our wholeness. So how do we begin to recognize the presence of our shadow? One telltale sign is projection of the act of attributing qualities we dislike in ourselves onto others. Have you ever found yourself inexplicably irritated by someone else's arrogance, laziness, or selfishness? While these traits may indeed exist in them, ask yourself, could this reaction be pointing to something I refuse to see in myself? Projection is the shadow's calling card, a subtle nudge inviting us to look inward. Similarly, patterns of self-sabotage often stem from unresolved shadow material. Whether it's procrastination, chronic doubt, or recurring conflicts in relationships, these behaviors signal areas where the shadow is seeking attention. But here's the catch. Engaging with the shadow is not a linear process. It cannot be conquered, fixed, or eradicated. Instead, it must be a slow, deliberate dance of acceptance and integration. Picture it as sitting across from an old acquaintance you haven't seen in years. At first, there may be discomfort, even resistance, but as you listen without judgment, you begin to uncover shared history, mutual wounds, and unexpected wisdom. Over time, what once felt foreign becomes familiar, even cherished. As we venture further into this exploration, remember this: the shadow does not seek to harm you. It seeks to heal you. Its emergence is not a punishment, but an invitation, an opportunity to reclaim pieces of yourself long abandoned. But how do we navigate this terrain without becoming overwhelmed? What tools and insights can guide us through the labyrinth of our own psyche? To answer these questions, we must delve, deeper still, into the heart of what makes the shadow both daunting and divine. To truly grasp the shadow's self, we must confront its most paradoxical truth. It is both a mirror and a mystery. It reflects aspects of ourselves that we have denied or hidden, yet it also conceals layers of meaning that resist easy interpretation. Like an ancient riddle etched into stone, the shadow challenges us to decipher its symbols, to find coherence in chaos. And while some may view this journey as perilous, it is ultimately one of profound liberation, a sacred pilgrimage back to wholeness. One of the greatest myths surrounding the shadow is that it represents only our dark side. This misconception stems from centuries of moralistic conditioning, which equates darkness with evil and light with virtue. But the shadow is far more nuanced than this binary framework suggests. Yes, it houses our fears, insecurities, and unresolved traumas, the parts of us we'd rather keep locked away. Yet it also safeguards qualities we've deemed too dangerous, too unconventional, or too powerful to express openly. These might include raw creativity, unbridled passion, or a fierce independence that defies societal norms. The shadow is not inherently malevolent. It simply embodies what has been cast out of the conscious mind's carefully curated narrative. Consider the archetype of the wounded healer, a figure found in countless spiritual traditions. This individual possesses extraordinary gifts for guiding others through pain and transformation, but these abilities arise from their own deep suffering. Their wounds are not weaknesses, they are portals to wisdom. Similarly, your shadow contains seeds of greatness buried beneath layers of fear and resistance. To access them, you must first descend into the depths, facing whatever arises with courage and compassion. Another critical aspect of the shadow lies in its relationship to projection, a phenomenon we touched upon earlier. When we project, we unconsciously assign traits, emotions, or intentions onto others that actually belong to us. For instance, someone who triggers feelings of envy in you may be mirroring ambitions or desires you've suppressed. A partner whose vulnerability irritates you might be highlighting your discomfort with intimacy. Projection acts as a distorted lens, magnifying aspects of ourselves we refuse to see directly. By becoming aware of these projections, we begin to reclaim disowned fragments of our psyche, integrating them into our conscious awareness. But beware, the path of integration is fraught with obstacles. One common pitfall is the temptation to romanticize the shadow, treating it as a mystical cure-all. While embracing the shadow can lead to profound growth, it does not guarantee instant enlightenment. In fact, the process often feels messy, uncomfortable, and non-linear. You may unearth memories or emotions that shake you to your core. Old patterns may resurface despite your best efforts to transcend them. This is where patience becomes essential. Healing is not about eradicating the shadow, but learning to coexist with it, to honor its presence without letting it dominate your life. A lesser-known insight into the shadow is its connection to collective consciousness. Just as individuals carry personal shadows, societies harbor collective ones, shared fears, biases, and unacknowledged truths that shape cultural narratives. Racism, sexism, environmental destruction, and other systemic issues often stem from projected shadows on a mass scale. By examining our individual shadows, we contribute to the healing of the collective whole. Each time we integrate a fragment of ourselves, we ripple outward, influencing the world around us in subtle yet significant ways. Perhaps the most advanced concept tied to the shadow is its role in transcending duality. Many spiritual teachings emphasize the importance of balancing opposites, light and dark, masculine and feminine, order and chaos. The shadow serves as a bridge between these polarities, teaching us to embrace contradiction and complexity. It reminds us that we are not static beings defined by fixed labels, but dynamic expressions of infinite possibility. Through the shadow, we learn to hold space for paradox, finding unity in apparent division, and yet questions remain. How do we distinguish between healthy boundaries and repressed shadow material? What happens when confronting the shadow feels overwhelming or triggering? Is it possible to integrate certain aspects while leaving others untouched? These inquiries remind us that the shadow is not a problem to solve, but a lifelong companion, a guide that continually invites us to explore the unknown corners of our being. As we transition from theory to practice, let us turn our focus inward once more. The insights we've uncovered thus far offer a foundation, but true transformation occurs when we apply this knowledge in tangible ways. How can you engage with your shadow in daily life? What rituals, exercises, or practices will help you navigate its labyrinthine depths? Let us now explore practical tools designed to illuminate the path ahead, empowering you to step boldly into the dance of light and shadow within. Now that we've ventured into the depths of the shadow self and unraveled its mysteries, it's time to bring this esoteric wisdom into the realm of action. The journey inward is not merely an intellectual exercise, it demands engagement, discipline, and a willingness to experiment with your own psyche. Here, I will share practical techniques and rituals to help you begin working with your shadow in transformative ways. These tools are designed to be accessible yet profound, offering a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern life. One of the simplest yet most powerful methods for engaging your shadow is through journaling. Begin by setting aside quiet time each day to write freely without judgment. Pose questions to your shadow as if speaking to another person. What are you trying to tell me? What emotions or desires have I been avoiding? Where do I feel resistance in my life, and what does it reveal about me? Allow whatever arises to flow onto the page, whether it's anger, fear, longing, or confusion. Over time, patterns will emerge, revealing insights into the hidden forces shaping your thoughts and behaviors. To deepen this practice, try writing from the perspective of your shadow itself. Imagine it has a voice and let it speak uncensored. This exercise fosters intimacy with parts of yourself you may have long ignored. Most meditative practices focus on cultivating peace, clarity, or light. While these are valuable, they often bypass the shadow entirely. Instead, dedicate sessions specifically to exploring darkness. Sit comfortably in dim lighting or complete darkness. Close your eyes and visualize descending into a vast underground cavern. Invite curiosity rather than fear as you explore this inner landscape. What shapes, figures, or sensations arise? Do you encounter resistance, discomfort, or unexpected beauty? This form of meditation helps you build a relationship with the shadow, transforming it from an adversary into an ally. Mirrors hold immense symbolic power. They reflect not only our physical appearance, but also our emotional and spiritual states. Stand before a mirror, preferably alone, and gaze deeply into your own eyes. Resist the urge to look away or critique your reflection. Instead, ask yourself, who am I beyond the masks I wear? What secrets do my eyes hold that I haven't dared to see? If emotions surface, tears, frustration, and joy, allow them to flow without suppression. Mirrors act as portals to the unconscious, making them invaluable tools for confronting aspects of yourself you might otherwise avoid. Projection is one of the clearest indicators of shadow material at work. To identify your projections, create a shadow map. Divide a piece of paper into 2 columns. In the left column, list people, situations, or traits that trigger strong reactions in you, positive or negative. In the right column, reflect on how these triggers might mirror qualities within yourself. For example, if someone's confidence irritates you, consider whether you struggle To embrace your own assertiveness, shadow mapping reveals blind spots and accelerates the process of integration. Sometimes the shadow clings to outdated beliefs, fears, or pain that no longer serve your growth. Create a ritual to release these burdens symbolically. Write down what you wish to let go of, whether it's shame, guilt, or limiting self-talk, and burn the paper safely in a fireproof container. As the flames consume the words, envision yourself shedding layers of heaviness, stepping lighter into the world. Alternatively, bury the paper in the earth, allowing nature to absorb and transform it over time. Rituals like these provide closure and reinforce your commitment to healing. For those who resonate with creative outlets, art can serve as a potent medium for shadow work. Paint, draw, sculpt, or dance, whatever medium calls to you. Let your hands move instinctively, bypassing the analytical mind. Don't worry about creating something good. Focus instead on expressing what feels raw, unfiltered, and authentic. Often, the resulting artwork becomes a visual representation of your shadow, offering new perspectives on its nature. Engaging with the shadow is rarely smooth sailing. Resistance, overwhelm, and doubt are natural companions on this path. If you find yourself struggling, remember these principles. Start small. Tackling everything at once can lead to burnout. Focus on one area of exploration at a time. Seek support. Working with a therapist, coach, or trusted guide trained in shadow work can provide invaluable assistance when navigating challenging terrain. Practice self-compassion. Confronting buried wounds can stir up intense emotions. Be gentle with yourself, recognizing that healing is a gradual process. By incorporating these practices into your daily life, you'll begin to notice shifts not just internally, but externally as well. Relationships may deepen, creativity may flourish, and decisions may become more aligned with your authentic self. The shadow ceases to be a source of conflict and instead becomes a wellspring of insight and empowerment. As we near the conclusion of our journey together, take a moment to reflect on what you've uncovered so far. Which of these tools resonates most deeply with you? How might you begin integrating them into your routine? Remember, the goal is not perfection but progress, a steady movement toward wholeness and truth. And now, as we prepare to close this chapter, let us turn our gaze outward once more, considering the broader implications of embracing the shadow. What awaits us when we step fully into the light of our integrated selves? As we draw this exploration to a close, let us pause and reflect on the journey we've undertaken together. We began by peeling back the veil of mystery surrounding the shadow self, a force both feared and revered across cultures and epochs. We traced its roots through ancient wisdom, unraveling how societies have alternately honored and concealed it, leaving breadcrumbs for those brave enough to seek its truths. We delved into its paradoxical nature, recognizing it as both mirror and mystery, adversary and ally, prison and treasure chest. And finally, we equipped ourselves with practical tools to engage with the shadow, not as something to conquer, but as a vital part of our being yearning for acknowledgement and integration. What emerges from this process is nothing short of alchemy, the transformation of fragmentation into wholeness, of discord into harmony. By embracing the shadow, you reclaim pieces of yourself, long abandoned fragments that hold the potential to unlock your deepest creativity, resilience, and authenticity. You begin to see that the qualities you once rejected are not flaws, but facets of your humanity, each carrying unique gifts waiting to be unearthed. In doing so, you step closer to becoming who you truly are, an integrated, multidimensional being capable of navigating life's complexities with grace and power. Yet the work does not end here. The shadow is not a static entity. It evolves alongside you, revealing new layers as you grow. This is not a destination, but an ongoing dialogue, a sacred dance between light and dark that continues throughout your lifetime. Every trigger, every challenge, every moment of discomfort becomes an opportunity to deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. As Carl Jung wisely said, Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. By choosing to face your shadow, you reclaim agency over your destiny. But perhaps the most profound implication of this work lies beyond the individual. When you heal your own wounds, you contribute to the healing of the collective. Your courage inspires others to embark on their own journeys. Your integration ripples outward, dissolving projections and fostering greater compassion and connection in your relationships and communities. The shadow, once hidden, now becomes a source of illumination not only for yourself, but for humanity at large. So I leave you with this question to carry forward. Who would you become if you stopped running from the parts of yourself you've been taught to fear? Would you discover untapped reservoirs of strength, unimagined wellsprings of creativity? Or perhaps a quiet, unshakable peace that comes from knowing yourself fully, without reservation? If this exploration has stirred something within you, if it has ignited a spark of curiosity or recognition, I urge you to take the next step. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Engage with others who are walking this path. Dive deeper into the resources available to expand your understanding. And above all, trust the process. Trust that every descent into darkness brings you closer to the light. The shadows are no longer silent whispers in the night. They are invitations. Will you answer them? Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unseen realms of the self. Until next time, may you walk boldly between worlds, embracing both the seen and the unseen, the known and the mysterious. For in the union of opposites lies the truest magic of all.